can something this good be bad for us? I'm talking about carbs. Some of the world's most popular diet trends include cutting out carbs from our diet, singling it out as the biggest culprit for weight gain. Excessive and prolonged consumption of refined carbs, like white rice, sweetened beverages, or pastries, is said to result in detrimental health effects like obesity, type 2 diabetes, and heart diseases, just to name a few.
I don't know about you, but I absolutely love my carbs. In fact, I need to have my white rice and noodles for my meals every day. I could always replace them with healthier choices like brown rice or whole grain, but I wonder if I can have my refined carbs as they are and not worry about overeating and gaining weight.
So in this episode, I'm going to find out how to be clever about carbs.
Before I start my investigation, I need to define what carbs are. Okay, bread, potato, oats, chips, spaghetti, and chocolate.
Ray, take this bag of cups too.
Broccoli, honey, and an apple? You mean these are also considered carbs?
Yes.
Wow, I wonder if people know that. What do you think I consider as carbohydrates?
The bread.
Bread? Okay.
Bread.
Apple,
Oats. Potato.
the bread, potato, the oats, spaghetti, potato chips.
Okay, and the others?
Yes, no.
So while everyone pointed out the usual suspects, most didn't realize that all of these are carbs. Carbohydrates are our body's main source of energy. Essentially, there are three types: fiber, starch, and sugar, which can easily be categorized as green, beige, and white carbs. Green carbs are essentially fiber found in plant-based food, like fruits and vegetables. They're also known as unrefined carbs, dense in nutrients. Beige carbs are starches such as bread, rice, and noodles. Some beige carbs, like high-fiber brown rice or whole grain bread, are also unrefined carbs. And finally, white carbs, which are found in highly processed foods such as pastries and also sweetened beverages. These are also known as refined carbs, stripped of nutrients. To be smart about carbs, I'm going to find out something about my relationship with it. Helping me out is Liu Mei Hui. She looks at how carbs affect our glucose response in the blood. Today, she brought together 4 other people, and she's going to be conducting an experiment on all of us involving some unsalted crackers.
So you have crackers on the table. What I need you guys to do is to eat this cracker and notice a change in taste. Whenever you notice that, please raise your hand because I will take note of the time when you actually notice this taste. Okay, you guys ready? 3, 2, 1, start. Anyone can feel a change in taste? You can raise your hands. We have 1, Faith. We have Syed. We have Jiaxuan. Don't be stressed. We have Ray. Irene slowly is fine. It's okay. Don't feel pressured by your peers.
The theory is that the faster we can feel the change in taste of the cracker in our mouth, the faster our ability at breaking down carbs, meaning we won't need to eat as much carbs to feel satiated and full.
So Faith came in the fastest. She can feel a change in taste at 9 seconds, followed by Syed at 13 seconds, and then Jiaxuan at 14 seconds. Irene didn't feel a change in taste, unfortunately. And so for Ray, your results is 15 seconds. It's in the middle, not too bad. Okay, so let me explain the rationale behind this experiment. When you eat the cracker, what happens is that your salivary amylase will break down the starch in the cracker into glucose. And these sugar molecules will then send a signal to your brain. The higher concentration of amylase that you have in your mouth, the faster you might probably feel a sense of sweetness in the cracker. So the faster you actually feel this change in taste, which is a change to sweetness, the faster you will send a signal to your brain that you are taking in food. And this might actually allow you to feel fuller faster.
So technically, does that mean that if we feel satiated faster, we will eat less carbs?
Technically, yes, you would.
I was one of the last to feel any change of taste in my mouth when munching on the cracker. Which means I might need a little more carbs to feel satiated. That's why it's all the more important I find ways to hack my carbs if I don't want to end up overeating and gaining weight. Many people I know who can't resist carbs are turning to these, marketed as the answer to weight loss. That's right, Carb Blockers! I wonder if they are indeed the magic pills they claim to be. Helping me separate fact from fiction is Dr. Shankar Pasupathy. He specializes in keyhole surgery for obesity and knows everything about weight loss.
Dr. Shankar, how exactly do carb blockers work?
There are different types of carb blockers. The typical ones you take actually block the breakdown of starch. So for the body to absorb starch, you have to break it down into the smallest component, glucose. Now, typically glucose is bound together in a combination, and many glucose molecules together will form starch. So think of it as a single brick versus a whole brick wall. So that process of breaking down takes place in our intestine using enzymes. Carb blockers are essentially enzyme inhibitors. They block the action of enzymes that break down starch into sugars.
Since the starch isn't broken down to sugar and absorbed in the small intestine, it goes directly to our large intestine or colon to be passed out as waste. This reduces the chances of excess glucose being converted and stored as fat in the body.
So do carb blockers really help with weight loss?
So the commonly used carb blocker is an extract from the white kidney bean. So there's some naturally occurring enzymes in this bean. These enzymes are kind of concentrated and delivered in pills. So they've done trials on that. And looks like taken for between 1 month to about 3 months, the weight loss is about 1 or 2 kilos.
That's it?
Right. So that's the bummer. Some of the studies show that they managed to block even 50-60% of the enzymes from working. But even those remaining enzymes are still enough to break down and absorb most of the glucose in our diet.
And that's why it doesn't work.
That's why the
Like
weight loss is
that
not
well.
as dramatic as we think.
Are there any side effects to using carb blockers?
You present some of this unbroken starch into the colon, where then it undergoes fermentation, producing gas and some not very pleasant smells, and that can give rise to bloating, sometimes pain, sometimes constipation, sometimes diarrhea.
I've always been curious about carb blockers. Imagine if I can eat as many carbs as I like without gaining weight. But perhaps in the long-term maintenance of health and weight, a simple pill cannot be a lifelong hack.
This makes me more determined to find ways I can be clever about my carbs.
Does that mean by consuming more resistant starch, I would have lower calories in my diet?
I'm on a mission to find out how to be clever about carbs. So far, I've discovered that carb blockers aren't the answer to enjoying my refined carbs and putting the weight off. So I've arranged to meet senior dietitian Esther Lin. She works closely with patients and assesses their nutritional intake, providing personalized dietary advice to suit their needs. I want to know if there are ways to curb my carb cravings.
Esther, what proportion of each carb should I be eating if I don't want to put on weight?
People have a lot of misconceptions surrounding carbohydrate. They think the carbohydrates are bad and they can lead to weight gain, but that is not true.
Oh.
Because carbohydrates are important energy fuel for the body. So we have a plate. We want half of your plate to consist of vegetables and fruit. A quarter of it is your lean protein sources like fish, chicken, or lean meat. In the other quarter, we want people to have their carbohydrate, which is the rice.
But how do I go about eating more refined carbs than what you recommended?
So if you really want to enjoy your refined grains, right, instead of completely transiting to a wholemeal bread itself, you can consider opting for a healthier option like the high fiber white bread.
High fiber white bread contains more dietary fiber than usual bread, which might keep you fuller too, while retaining the familiar softness and taste of white bread.
Also, you can consider eating off from a smaller plate, because when you're eating off from a smaller plate, you are not noticing that you're eating lesser. And eat slowly. You're eating slowly, you're digesting slowly. It keeps you fuller for longer time.
It's common knowledge that refined carbs are bad because they get digested quickly, meaning that our blood sugar levels spike and drop rapidly. I wonder if I can avoid that by manipulating my favorite carbs in the kitchen.
Dr. Amy Lin has got some tricks up her sleeves.
So you have raw potatoes here. We have mashed potatoes and potato salad. So these are from exactly the same potatoes, but structure of starch inside of them actually are different because the way we prepare them. See, potato salad, we also cook it, but usually we put them in the refrigerator for a few hours. Now, when starch is at a low temperature, starch molecules like to get together and bond with each other very tightly. This we call retrogradation.
So what is retrogradation?
Retrogradation means now because they bond with each other so strong, our enzymes will have a harder time to release glucose, which means you will get lower calories. You can also expect a lower glycemia.
So in that way, the potato is more difficult to digest.
Yes.
So what are some of the other ways that we can change the structure of the starch?
Now the easiest one is this, using the refrigerator. Let me bring you an example. Sure. People ask me about freezing and toast bread. Now freezing makes starch molecules retrograde, bond with each other, very tight. It's so tight. So when you toast it again to make it taste good, this toasting doesn't affect the structure much.
If I had a meal that I cooked with rice and I put it in the freezer and then I reheat it after that, does that mean that I will change the structure of the starch and it'll cause me to have a lower spike in my sugar level?
Most of the time, yes. When you do this, it actually forms what we call resistant starch.
So does this mean that resistant starch good for us?
Yes, it is a big yes.
By consuming more resistant starch, I would have lower calories in my diet.
Most of the time. But again, this sometimes is about the individual genetic or your health. But simply look at starch chemistry, yes.
Resistant starch is lower in calories. It is also resistant to starch degradation enzymes. This means it cannot be digested at all in the small intestine. It simply makes its way to our large intestine and ferments, feeding the good bacteria there. This promotes gut health and improves immunity. If simply heating and cooling my carbs can convert it to resistant starch, which means I'll consume lesser calories, I'm sure gonna try it out. But all this cooling and heating has really stripped my joy from enjoying food. Just as I was thinking if there's a more convenient way for me to enjoy my refined carbs, I stumbled upon something that sounds revolutionary. A powder that claims to make refined carbs, such as white rice and bread, healthier without changing its taste or texture. It's called Alchemy Fiber. I'm meeting co-founder Verlene Goh. The local food tech company has spent the past 5 years finding ways for diabetics to enjoy their carbs without leading to spikes in their blood sugar level or changing the taste of the carbs. I wonder if that's really the case. Well, this certainly calls for a taste test.
Okay, Ray. So this is like our samples. There are 3 samples of chicken rice, burgers, and chocolate cake. So they may or may not contain alchemy fiber. You have to taste and guess.
Okay.
So you can guess which has alchemy fiber and you can put a flag on it.
I must say though, the They all look exactly the same.
Appearance is the #1 winning factor.
I shall go for rice first, since I like chicken rice, right? Hopefully my chicken rice taste buds can tell what's got alchemy fiber in it.
Tastes like chicken rice.
That tastes just like chicken rice. No difference at all. Let me see.
Still tastes like chicken rice.
This is going to be a very tough test. No. I'm going to use my well-trained chicken rice taste buds to put my flag here on this one.
Now, for the burger.
Bite from this.
For burgers, it's very important that we look at like how the bread can kind of like bounce back.
This is not easy. I'm going to go with my gut and put it here. There you go.
Okay, and the last.
Dessert. Third one. Even my minute bites are not helping. Okay, I'm gonna go with this one.
So I see that you have selected the first of the chicken rice, the second of the burger, and the third of the cake.
Yep.
Shall I reveal the answers to you now?
I'm gonna be completely wrong.
Earlier, I was challenged to find out which of these burgers, chocolate cakes, and chicken rice had been infused with Alchemy Fiber, a special powder that supposedly makes refined carbs healthier without compromising on the flavor. Could this be the ultimate carb hack?
Okay, so I see that you have selected the first of the chicken rice, the second of the burger, and the third of the cake.
I'm gonna be completely wrong.
Well, the right answer is actually the ones in the middle are the ones with alchemy fiber. So you got like 1 out of 3 right.
Honestly, I think the one I got right was pure luck, because I really couldn't tell the difference between the foods treated with Alchemy Fiber and the ones that weren't.
How does alchemy fiber work?
So alchemy fiber is actually a blend of various plant-based fibers, and they're all like low GI, high fiber, and high prebiotic. When we add alchemy fiber to white rice, it will help to lower the GI of white rice from high to medium, which is actually the same as brown rice, and all these without changing the taste of the rice at all. What I have a pack here, right? So all we have to do is that after you have washed your rice grains, just add like 1 tablespoon to 1 cup of rice, and then you just cook it as per normal in the rice cooker. So alchemy fiber is used in various restaurants and food service outlets in Singapore as well. So for example, we work with Swee Heng to make their cakes healthier with alchemy fiber, and your everyday type of food like chicken rice and duck rice, which I'm sure most Singaporeans love so much,
I love
right?
my chicken rice.
We have Boon Tong Kee and Yuki that's serving up the rice that's made with alchemy fiber as well. And even burgers, so Collins is also one of our partners, so they added it into like burgers, pizzas. So yeah, variety of food products. It's all about having smarter carbs throughout the day, every 3 meals of the day.
So does that mean if I have alchemy fiber, I can eat a lot of it and not worry?
We don't recommend it, but some of the positive feedback that we received is customers feel full longer. They actually end up snacking less. So they may lose, some weight as well.
Yeah, that makes sense. Alchemy fiber is indeed a game changer, but I'm usually out and about rushing between schedules. What if I want to have my favorite carbs anywhere, anytime, and as they already are? If only I could uncover the ultimate hack, where I could eat all my favorite carbs and not worry about weight gain.
To help me with this, I reached out to Twain Teo, a veteran in the fitness industry with over 10 years of experience. He tells me I can enjoy my favorite carbs as they are and still lose weight. Hang on. What?
So Twain, what is this secret weapon that you have that I can eat my favorite carbs and also still lose weight?
Well, it's this thing we call caloric cycling. So it's an undulation of calories from day to day. Some days you eat high, some days you eat low. For a lot of people, their first instinct when they go on a diet is to try to restrict themselves all the way. So you'll be like, I can't eat cake. But the truth is, you don't actually have to go all the way to that direction, because there is a certain amount that you have to eat under that will trigger your body to think that, hey, I'm in this thing called a calorie deficit. I have not enough energy coming in, so I need to mobilize some of my energy stores here, which is essentially fat stores for most people. Now, the key thing here is to understand what your baseline amount is and then have a way to track it day to day.
So how do I calculate this baseline amount?
So the baseline amount to calculate, it comes from a very simple number. You could just take your goal weight and multiply it by 25.
So if I wanted to be 72 kilos, for example, I multiply that by 25, and that gives 1,800 calories. So that will be my average daily intake?
Yep. So one of the key ways I like to get people to think about this is, let's say 1,800 is your baseline. So let's say if you exceed, you eat 2,000 today, the next day you could go back and say, I'll eat 1,006. So you might have to draw back a little bit.
And how does interchanging between high and low calorie days affect my weight loss?
Well, the real secret behind it is that it's much easier to do because it goes with the ebb and flow of life. Some days you're going to eat more, some days you're going to eat less. So adherence is the number one thing. The easier it is for you to do, the more likely you are to stick to it. And that's how you're going to get results. Because at the end of the day, if you follow the numbers and if you follow the baseline and you're in a deficit, it will even out, you'll lose weight, you'll see the results, and you won't feel super restricted, which is the ultimate key. If you always feel restricted, you are not going to stick to it. You're always fighting yourself.
By being mindful of my overall calorie intake, I can be more strategic about when I choose to indulge in some of my favorite carbs. For example, go for the chocolate cake and biryani today and opt for green or high fiber carbs the next day.
With hacks like changing the temperature of my carbs, or putting a little magic dust in it, or doing calorie mathematics every time I want to have my carbs, can I be clever about carbs? You bet I can.